I said, Mom, I'm hosting a LAN. She says, what is a LAN? I said, I'll show you. Say less.
I just want to ask first, lighters.
Lighter teasy.
Bro.
I know. It's different. So, way back when I first started, I had a mentor called Light. He played for the best Counter-Strike team, Evolved Light. So I just stole his name, put an ER and it's easy at the end. Like, hello?
It works.
Yeah, it works.
But I think I've been calling you lighters for like the longest time.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Like proofread your name, you know.
Exactly. Not many people know the TZ stands for tools at the end. So it's lighter, the TZ, that just stands for tools.
It works.
Yeah, I thought of a little gimmicky thing I throw in the end.
I like it. Thulani Sishi, team manager at Goliath Gaming, ZA. It's so good to have you here. I was really looking forward to chatting to you as well. I have had the pleasure of working with you. You are someone I look up to as a caster, streamer, creator, multifaceted guy, aren't you?
Yeah. Thanks for the kind words. Sure, I've done pretty much a lot of if you had to tick a box off of the things or the careers within the esports space, I've done quite a lot of them, and it was just naturally falling into them. You know, become a player. Once you become a player, you become a coach. After a coach, you're a commentator. After a commentator, you're running an org. After running an org, you're running a TO. After running a TO, yeah, it's an ever-evolving space, and probably the most exciting journey I've been on. Yeah.
And how long have you been in this space? Obviously, I've become acquainted with you in the last couple of years, but how long have you actually been sort of operating in the esports gaming entertainment space?
So give or take 17 years. Yeah, I started very young. I mean, to give you perspective, when I was 12 years old, I hosted the first LAN at my house. It was like one of my birthday parties. I said, Mom, I'm hosting a LAN. She says, what is a LAN? I said, I'll show you. Say less. Give me the budget and I'll sort it out. So me and my two brothers, we planned it all. I hired a 15 by 20 tent to put on my garden. Got the flooring done, the cabling, tables, power, all that jazz. And then invited just 20 of my best friends. And we just played all weekend at a gaming LAN, and that's where it all kind of started. I've always been dabbling into games. I have two older brothers, so you can imagine there's been roles and fights inside the house to maintain that one computer. And slowly but surely started winning events. When you win events, you get parts. Back then, you were only winning parts and towels. You weren't winning cash and thousands and millions of rands that the players are winning today. So you win parts. Built my first computer back then, and then ever since then, I've been on this esports journey. Yeah.
And how did you get into Goliath Gaming? How did that happen?
So as you know, one of my best friends is Ashton Muller, and obviously Michele Brondani. We were competitors for the longest of times. I mean, rivals, and then we crossed paths. We had a conversation. Eventually, he was in Durban, and he came to watch one of the games at the Sharks Stadium. And back then, I was still at the Sharks Academy. I was still going the professional rugby route. I bumped into him there, and he said, Thulani, and I'm like, Ash? He said, Tools. I'm like, goals? We were in the same city, and we only found out then and there, and we just started chatting. And I said to Ash, I'm like, why am I not on your team? I'm literally the up-and-coming player. When I say up-and-coming, my background is Counter-Strike 1.6. That's where I first started. That's where I made my name. It's an old game by now, archaic game that a lot of people played. But the game is still similar. You still maintain the same skill sets, the same way you think about the game and how it's done, and how to just coordinate 4-5 individuals to be on the same page. So that was my greatest strength, is just from coming from a rugby environment where, it's a camaraderie, it's the team game, 15 different people on the rugby field. If one guy doesn't do his job, you'll fail. So everybody has to be on the same page. The GS has to be there. I'm always the guy to just keep everyone on an upbeat, good vibe, making sure the mentality is intact. I mean, for me, I hate it because I read body language quite well. I can see if someone's nervous, not feeling good, or thinking. For me, I always say, if you don't have good thoughts, you have no thoughts. That's just how it's supposed to go, especially leading up to a tournament or win a tournament. So I was able to spread that ethos throughout all the teams I've been in. My brother helped me a lot. My brother was a crazy guy as well. He was also in esports. I'm not going to say it was better than me, but we were on par. I'm not going to say it was better, but he was always being picked for all these teams back in the day. I wasn't being picked, and eventually, we caught up. He helped me a lot grow and all that stuff, and I learned a lot from him in terms of just, how to keep your own composure, how to just, keep the vibe in the team, how to make sure, he wasn't the captain, he was the vice captain, but, you have to have a second in charge. And I sort of learned a lot from that respect, and seeped it and sort of encouraged that throughout all my teams. And just from there, that's where my greatest value and asset is. But going back to goals, yeah, I told him, we should be on the same team. He agreed. So that conversations back and forth. And I went to watch one of their LAN events where they won. But I just said, still, I don't care if you won. Just put me in, bro. Just put me in.
Coach.
And eventually they did. I joined Energy Esports back in 2013, end of 2013. And they'll tell you that I went through the only initiation in the team. They put me through a rigorous process without telling me that no one else has gone through that process.
Seems a little unfair.
And it's undervalued. And for me, that's fine. I mean, I come from a rugby background. We do initiations all the time, but that's where you really get to build a khiyas. You get to really, sit down over a pint of beer and just discuss random topics and get to know each other. And I mean, that transcends and also comes through within the game.
Yeah. So you are one of the most electric personalities I've had the privilege of experiencing in real life in the esports realm. So, speaking about morale and your sort of encouragement of teams, how much does that tie into team management? This is a loaded question, but what is your role? How does that sort of tie in? That's been quite a prevalent theme with our interviews, I think, the mutual sort of support. So what do you do as team manager to refine it, and how do you operate as sort of an encourager and supporter of your teams?
So a lot of our roles in Goliath, between myself, Sticks, Steve, Gabby, we cross-pollinate a lot. So we like to know just the overall scope of what's going down in Goliath Gaming, from, sending through proposals to executing projects, and just making sure all the deliverables are met from all the partners that you have. That's one side of it. And then it comes down to all the rosters that we have, maintaining all of it. So I've always been known as the tech guy throughout my entire, even from the household to the team environment to the MG, I'm the tech guy. That also helps a lot. I mean, back then, if you wanted a computer, you had to build it yourself. I know a guy who could build it. Nobody builds computers anymore. The kids are like, the part will break, or the SSD card wouldn't work, or the RAM stick isn't in properly, or the card. So you end up having to build all the PCs and making sure, trial and error, troubleshoot. So that's another one of my roles, is to make sure the equipment's working at GG and functioning quite nicely, even from the software, just making sure everyone's, got the stream packages, knows how to set OBS up and stream, because that's something we're encouraging at GG, just to, imprint your personality on the world, because everyone's a brand and people want to get to know you, especially if you're a superstar, especially if you're performing at the highest level. They want to know what's happening beneath, the Giulio Bianchi or the Thabo Molloy. So just making sure, if they want to stream, if they want to do this, they want to do that, content wise, I can jot up a content plan. I can make sure, from the equipment side, you're all good. If you need scripting, I can help out with that. So multifaceted in that sense. Also, a great perk is obviously getting to travel with the players overseas when they qualify for events, and people don't understand what it's like overseas when you, from a competitive point of view, when you're playing. It's a different world entirely, from what you see to what you do to the conversations you have. I mean, it gives you it broadens your horizon. You're like, all right, that's the new level I need to get to, not just in the capacity of your game, but in life. It's always nice coming back home. We spoke about this earlier, just to have that contrast. But just getting to travel the world and seeing as much as you can was always, part of my plan. That's why I played rugby quite a lot. I was, hoping to be a Springbok one day.
Right.
That got cut short due to injury, but the esports space, nice thing. Being a manager, you learn a lot of things, trial and error. That's literally what it is. Esports is a new phenomenon. We've only, for the past 10 years, seen a great, I think, rejuvenation within the space. So within that, everything's new. You're learning, just mistakes here and there that you could just correct. The micro mistakes, not massive ones. But even if you do make a massive one, you got to learn from it, right? So there's a bit of that just bounces back into your, let's say, repertoire as just a human and a manager, and just content create at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot going on, so you have to be like really organized to have all of this, balancing all these things. Would you describe yourself as an organized person?
No way. Well, compared to a lot of people I know, I'm organized. Put it that way. So it all comes down to who you surround yourself with, and all that stuff. Like, for example, Steve and Julia spoke about Gabby. She's one of our mentors and one of our colleagues as well. She's the most organized person I know. So when I look at her, like, all right, that's what being organized looks like. So if I could just get to 80% or like 85, or just keep improving year on year, which I think I have done. I always look back, like end of the year, I'll sit there, I'll spend a few days and just catch up, big moments, low moments, how to improve, mistakes here and there. And you look back and like, cool, all right, I'm improving, getting better, I'm feeling organized. So that has to count for something.
So tell me about what sort of makes a good team manager. Also, what makes a bad team manager? What is someone... Like, what is an org looking for in a team manager? What is the role that you kind of need to fulfill outside of your duties?
First and foremost, you got to be multifaceted. You got to be able to deal with things that aren't in your skill set. I mean, that's super important. For example, I got to learn about Street Fighter and everything that happens in and around that world, what the game entails, the whole space. Because you look at, let's say, an esports event. For CSGO, I know pretty much everything that happens within the CSGO event, from the players to the TO to the media surrounding it, and the crowd and what you got to surround the event. Just those little tidbits to make it look pleasant on the eye, if you will. And you always use that comparison for the title. So Street Fighter, I had a blueprint from traditionals, other sports, etc. But just to learn, how the crowd interacts, just timings on it, from the commentary to the production at backstage, it's different. So again, you get to learn about Street Fighter, and then in turn, you're able to assist your player better, able to help. Just Jabi was the players able to just do more for him when you learn about the titles. So you got to be open to learning. That's one of the important things. I think communication's a massive one. People don't talk as well as I think they should in the year 2023. All this new generation, just communication, it goes over the head, it'll go in one ear and come out the other. And you're standing there, you're scratching your head, you're like, all right, well, generations have changed. We got to learn their lingo now. Like
all the slang, it's hard to keep up.
I'm telling you now, I'm learning new things, and I would use the word and like, no, tools you use in the wrong context. I'm like, damn it, you really want to, exactly, you want to fit in here and there.
What's a new word you recently picked up?
A new word I recently picked up? Let me cook was obviously the new one in the market. There's a few. These words escape me sometimes, but I'm sure the viewers and about all those words is floating around Twitter, and you're like, cool, you write that down. Not even the Urban Dictionary has all these lingos coming out.
They can't keep up.
So they're behind.
They're not even like the benchmark anymore.
No, not at all. So communication's a big one.
Right.
Even learning body language and just how to communicate, and self-control's a massive one. Especially if you're playing a team game or in a team environment, if one guy has a mood swing or this and that, it affects the rest of the team. So, teaching him skills just to, deal with that in his own way without affecting the rest of the people outside the game. When they're in the game, it's a bit hard to manage and help out. And specifically in Counter-Strike, because I manage that and entirely, or specifically with the rest, Sticks does the FIFA. It's just different, man. Just leadership as well. I mean, I come up from a rugby background, and it was the most important thing back then for the captain to actually lead by example in every facet within the sport. From how he trains to the skill set he has, to how he controls himself, just to communicating and be able to spread positive energy. It's the most underrated thing, I still say to this day, to have a captain who can encompass all of those skill sets and perform at the highest level. It's very, very rare. You'll even see it at the highest tiers of sport and traditional sport. Those captains don't come often. For me, Richie McCaw from New Zealand, in the All Blacks. I read his book and I said, no wonder. I just said, no wonder. Slapped my leg. This guy he's a different being entirely.
Right.
So you go through his book and you read the certain things they have in place. Like he has a mantra where he'll write down before a game the 4 key components you'll focus on, and then he'll spread that message to the rest of his team. I mean, no one really does that anymore.
Right. Do you feel like there are things that you do in this sort of traditional sports sense that set your team up for success?
100%. I mean, I'm the chef of the house, so that's the one thing. I'll make breakfast for the guys. I'll make sure the guys are fed in the morning, and we're sitting together having breakfast and just talking about how the rest of the day is going to pan out. That's important, and be able to troubleshoot issues as a team. You don't want to do it in isolation, and then you get back to the team and they don't like your solutions. So a lot of back and forth. So just problem solving as a team. Keeping like I mentioned, just the morale at its highest form, and there's just small things that you unconsciously do that could easily seep into the rest of the mindset of the team, and you just try to eradicate that. So I use humor. It's one of my favorite things. People don't understand how special and how important humor is in not even a team environment, in life. It could solve so many problems. I don't think the world would be in such chaos if more people were smiling and laughing. I'll tell you that much. So that's another important thing. There's a few to mention, but that escapes me at the moment. But yeah.
So part of your role as team manager, it does cross over into quite a few different roles, but it is part of that scouting new players. What do you look for? What does Goliath look for? Is that a team effort? How does that work?
So initially when I first joined Goliath Gaming, because I was at Big Five before, that's my own organization. I started with Hadley Convict. Bless up to that guy, one of the best humans I know in the esports space. Much like me, he did everything and anything under that sun, from production to this to that. So I learned a lot from him. So we started Big Five, and from there we moved on. In Goliath, repeat that question. I needed to tie it back in somehow. I forgot.
So how do you? Is it part of your role to scout new players? What do you look for?
Oh yes. So. Yeah, I was mentioning Hadley. He was quite a savant in all the spheres of esports, and he had a really good eye for just spotting talent, etc. And we went over to Goliath Gaming. And Michele, he has a specific process. I really do like it, and how he just, over a year he'll have, let's say the 10 best players in FIFA, or this or that, and he'll just keep an eye on them to see how they progress. For example, if a guy comes third place, and he's 15 years old, he's placing third consistently throughout the year. He has a lot of promise, and in my mentality it makes sense. If you can put our resources and what we have under Goliath, and you attach it to a player who's hungry and wants to win and wants to be the best, and has the right characteristics to do so, it's a perfect match. So it'll fit. So we've kind of kept to that process for quite a while now. It also depends on the title. Like we'll get random messages about certain titles that just don't make sense to pick up a roster for. So we're not always trying to look for the best and this and that, but we want to make sense and make good business decisions in what we do under the Goliath Gaming banner. So, if there's I call that just a co-creation between the organization and the player. We're there to benefit each other and make sure we can both reach our objectives and our goals, right? So from there, we will look and pick up players that are, we want to pick up quite young players now, because we've realized it's easier to seep in new good habits within the young players than someone just like, let's say 26, he's already set in these ways. It's hard for him to change his perception on the game itself and in life, whether it's good for him or not. It's always up to the player. Not that we won't, but it just makes sense to see if there's a 16-year-old performing as well as a 26-year-old. I mean, it's a no-brainer. We want to go for the 16-year-old if they have the same characteristics and personality.
Right. I mean, like with Julio, he was Goliath appreciated, in his words, that he was relatively unknown at the time. So yeah, that's kind of like a classic example of that mentality. Yeah,
100%. I mean, we signed a Tekken player, Malik. He's in our GG Academy. We hosted a workshop at, what restaurant was it? It's near here by Craig Hall.
Don't dox us.
No,
You're doxing us.
So yeah, whatever. We hosted a workshop there. Damn it, I have to remember this. It's gotta come to me. It will come. Let me just explain the story first. So we had a workshop. It was a tech and event. So we had a few players registered. They popped up and stuff. So he rocked up with his dad. When he was fairly young, around 13, and he really raised our eyebrows because I was commentating some Tekken. Never commentated Tekken before, so you can imagine the learning curve I went through. I mean, you've been in a situation and a new title, so anxiety is at all-time high. You'll never see it. You'll never see me being anxious, but trust me, it's there. It's seeping through my veins. But yeah, he impressed us. Won a lot of sets for some really good players that were there. So we're like, damn, Daniel, we're signing this guy. Nice. We had him, we spoke to him, and yeah, he was more than grateful and happy. And likewise from our side, we're happy that we can just start this journey together with this young star. I mean, even now when he competes in events, he's placing well, second, third, and yeah, man's got a bright future. Awesome. That's what we're looking for.
Nice. You were speaking about it making sense to pick up titles. What kind of titles do you think qualify as something you would invest in? What, it was actually one of my questions. What do you kind of look at international standards for competitive games, or is there a Goliath specific criteria that makes sense to you for you to pick up titles?
It's a bit of both. It's local and international. For example, let's look at Dota, right? That's an international game, but it's not really taking well and picking up in South Africa well. So it doesn't really make sense to pick up a roster in a scene that doesn't really have the prestige it used to. It used to be pretty big, but the last Dota event we won, bless up, if you cast away. So I mean, after that event, we had a amicable goodbye with the Dota team. I'm able to expand into other titles because that opened up more resources to give to other titles and pick up. But Rocket League's another. I mean, that's in the last year and a half it picked up massive. So that would be a good example of a title to pick up in South Africa because it transcends the country. It goes overseas. There's a circuit. Our players are able to qualify and get paid events to go there and compete. That makes sense. Counter-Strike's always been. It is the number one title on earth. Number one. You can't beat Counter-Strike.
Very
say,
like
but tools. No. Show me, don't tell me. Show me the stats. It's Counter-Strike, hands down.
Very, very measurable, right? Like it's easy to sort of measure success in Counter-Strike as a competitive title.
It is.
What about a Stray speedrun?
A Stray speedrun?
I'm joking.
Is that a cat? What?
Yeah, you don't know Stray.
Stray
it's
speedrun.
So cute, Thulani.
Okay, look.
I'm just
kidding. If it's cute,
though.
then maybe. I'll speak to management.
Okay, talk to management.
Yeah.
So you've obviously got a sporting background. Julia has a sporting background. Stephen puts emphasis on the importance of sport in the esports, physical sports, because esports is sport as well. Can esports be compared to like the Premier League in terms of like buying and selling players? It sounds so dodgy saying it like that.
Yeah.
But do you think that it can be compared, and do you think that esports will see the same sort of monetary or the same sort of economy as physical sports like football?
100%. I mean, if I had to look back on, I like to think I was part of the early stages of esports, and like I said, we were winning beach towels and RAM and
beach towels
and SSDs. It was crazy. I went to a game, we won a beach towel. Like what? Okay, but thank you. I'll take it anyway. I mean, you can't say no to a beach towel. I like big towels, but where you see its growth from that point up until now. I mean, it's already happening overseas. I mean, you look at trades and deals and sellings and buyings for $1 million, $2 million. It's actually getting out of hand in comparison to the growth. You just want to monitor and tamper that down a little. I mean, it's not worth, you buy a player for 10 bar, you sign him for 10 years. No one else is going to be able to buy him until the day's dead.
Right. It kind of becomes about who's got the most money. That's going to be like the most like highly concentrated, successful organization, right? Like the more money you have to buy a player, the better players you get.
Yeah, and you're just doing this, just like
hoarding.
Doing this. He is hoarding, so cut that out. If you're listening, cut that out. So that's and you look at the scene, and Steve and Jules are right. I mean, you look at traditional sports and you look at esports, there are a lot of similarities that people aren't aware of. I've always said to my players, like, pick another hobby besides your, go play squash, go play tennis, go play this, go play that. It'll help with your hand-eye coordination. And playing an individual game, you're playing Counter-Strike, it's a team game, or Dota, it's a team game, or 2v2 FIFA, it's a team game, but playing a game by yourself individually against another opponent individually, you get to really find yourself in the most desperate and dire moments when you need to clutch up this round, and it's only you. There's no one else to look around to. There's no one else to call. It's just you. You have to make the call. And that's where you really get in tune with yourself and you start making better decisions that string together to ultimately create a magical moment or a magical play. And you can only do that by yourself. You can't really rely on anyone else. Yeah, you could do it in a team environment, whether it's a 1v1 clutch, etc. But that's just one moment of brilliance, and often or not, you're not going to go back and analyze that. If you're playing an individual sport, you're forced to go back and analyze that. Then you can really just see how your brain thinks and how you feel in those moments. For me, if you're feeling overwhelmed in those moments, all right, you need to do some work. You shouldn't be feeling overwhelmed. You should be feeling focused and dialed in. I always say within every sphere, whether it's casting, whether it's playing the game, whether it's production or whatever, you have this state called flow state, which you get into when you're in that moment where it almost feels every decision you're making is correct and nothing you can do in this moment is wrong.
Right.
Once you reach that flow state, that's when you really get to understand yourself. Like, shit, I can do this. I'm making better decisions than your opponent. You're stringing some really nice words together that flow. While you're casting, or you're catching everything while you're being a spectator in game and production, everything's running smoothly. And players aren't really diversifying. They're just sitting on the computer and they're just playing, which I go against that completely. So yeah, and you tie that into, you get to the highest stages. So Jules is a really good face for esports. I would say that entirely. Just again, well-rounded, got a good sporting background, good at communication. He's the captain of a FIFA team, so it's a good example for the kids coming up on what traits to have. And once you get like that, they'll buy you. I'll drop 10 bar on the boy. I'll drop 10 bar on the boy. How are you? And you'll take him. So that's how it's gonna work.
Love that.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, there are like little points that you mentioned that I'm like, I want to remember to leverage that into a question. But in terms of South Africa's sort of progression in the esports environment, what do you're a wise person that I know.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean sometimes. I know you personally. I know you have insight. What do you think we need to sort of grow further? We've grown so much, but what do you think we need in terms of management and the these other roles that you kind of fulfill? What do we need in South Africa to further propel us into the international arena?
Few things. From it's already currently happening at the moment. Bodies being formed. You look at the schools at the moment. They're getting esports sort of arenas, esports classes. I mean, they're competing for their school, so that was always going to be the first step. And I'm glad to see it's coming through now, more so than later. The second is we need better government support. We all know like Voldemort's the name we should not say. we all know that we need way better support and more transparency with the government as the private sector of esports, your NGOs, your players, that really involved in the government affairs, and vice versa. They're not involved in our affairs. And we're skyrocketing. I'm telling you now, man. It's ebb and flow. I mean, you look at 2016, it was literally 5 million rand just for Counter-Strike, which is nuts. The year after, there was, hundreds and thousands for FIFA. Now it's happening for Rocket League. So we're getting these bird sprouts, but it's not being managed well. We don't really have a long-term plan. But you need a body to form a long-term plan, to get all the participants and MGOs and TOs under having one conversation about where is the trajectory, where should we be headed, and how do we get there, and just to come to a mutual consensus and then follow that path. We don't have a body like they do overseas, and you can do it without it, but it's much easier pushing one vessel as a team than pushing multiple vessels their own way, if you get me from that analogy. But yeah, I think those are the two components I think we need the most. And there's nothing really else. We need more celebrities in the esports space, I think. I mean,
Yeah,
right?
I think like something interesting about the sort of COVID era is that physical athletes were kind of getting into this esports realm, or like even just the gaming for fun kind of thing. It's definitely something we're seeing more of, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They're kind of like endorsing video gaming, like actors, sports people. I don't want to like name them. I feel like I'm going to leave someone integral out.
I'll cover you. You can name it. I got you. I got you.
But like Henry Cavill. Do you say Cavill or Saville? Cavill. Henry Cavill.
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 Yeah.
Henry Cavill, Chloe Grace Moretz, sports. I'm not so like
There's
clued up
Casper.
on.
I
Right.
saw Nasty C as well.
Nasty C, yeah. He was at an event, like / gaming event on Saturday, Kailami 9 Hour as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's nice to see that, and I think it's important that you mention that, because we kind of need, like, I don't want to say we need, like, people are doing so well,
Yeah.
you know. And then little old me is like, we need this. Guys, this is what we need.
It helps, no? It'll help.
But yeah, the endorsement, the sort of like,
yes.
this is cool, this is
Yes.
something that should be encouraged. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, like overseas, it's crazy. You got celebrities owning esports teams overseas, and it builds the culture, and you know it helps with just the numbers, the viewerships, and
Right.
and just the hype of esports.
Yeah.
A lot of people think esports is a bubble. It's gone far beyond that.
Yeah.
It was a bubble back in 2016, yeah, for sure. But now you can see more consistent growth within the sphere. But,
Yeah, like lifestyle sort of branding or
Yeah.
lifestyle sponsors getting involved and stuff. I think they see the potential as well, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta where the kids go, we go. People don't understand.
yeah.
Kids rule our lives. I mean,
Yeah.
I was in Texas with my sister's kids, and they control the household. they control the household. I mean, you go to the shops with them, they point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're gonna be
Yeah.
I got her. She's too cute. I
Anything
have
for
to.
you.
So it's if they want to play games, you're gonna follow them. Most kids
Yeah.
now they know about esports, play at least one esports. People don't understand how broad esports is. It's PCs, it's consoles, and it's cell phone devices. You've obviously got your Wii's and all those other things. So it caters for everybody. No one can say, there's no game for me. Liar.
Yeah.
I tell them, liar, straight to their faces.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to go try a new game, try this, try that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, go be 10 hours in the dungeon playing.
Yeah.
Just you want to kill time, you want to just let your hair down, breathe some fresh air,
Right, yeah.
do that.
In terms of like encouraging parents to be involved, this is just something I kind of wanted to touch on, like encouraging kids to be involved in gaming for various reasons. Like, I know parents are really worried about their kids not having balance or anything like that. But how do you sort of justify to parents who aren't sold by the idea of esports that it is something worthwhile, even if it is just casual for the benefit of like logic and teamwork,
Communication. All
communication, yeah.
The first, you give them the benefits of esports. Know how it helps with its cognitive function, your ability to work in a team environment, just to problem solve and think critically. There's loads of benefits. But at the end of the day, just like Jules, I'm a big fan of just making sure you got your educational background, you're doing well at school. I mean, at the end of the day, that should always be a foundation as let's say a backbone or some cement to the rest of your life, just to have that understanding, how serious the kid is about esports and gaming. Like if the mother's coming to me and saying, hey, my son's playing 10 to 12 hours of Call of Duty or this or this or that, like, first of all, tell them to stop it. Like, that's too many. I mean, if you're on a holiday, yeah, sure, you can binge for the whole weekend and stuff, but if it's consistent, that's not really healthy, especially if you're not one of the best, trying to be the best, and if you have a tournament running up. If it's just casual gaming, mindlessly playing, that's not good. Rather break it up, put into 2 6-hour slots, fit in some exercise or sport or hobby in between. But if he's got a knack for the game, if he's good, he's good. Like, you know what I mean? Support your son, give him everything he needs. Speak to us, we're always willing to help. We have workshops here and there, whether at Ridge Park or Shop or Soweto. We've got one coming up now in Middle State. Just, be a part of that. Walk in, we're open people. We We never want to chase away anyone at an event. We're always there, willing to give them as much information as possible and to explain what's actually happening so they can build a framework for themselves. And
Yeah.
that's top tier. That's
Yeah.
you can't really get better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And once the parent understands, done. They're more than willing to help their child.
Right.
That's one of those things. Same as like rugby. Like my parents were so supportive in rugby because I understood. They're like, cool, you pass the ball, you kick it, boom, you put it across the try line to try. He has to kick for 2 points, and there's the penalty. If you explain that same context within esports, they're like, I got it. That's why Timmy fluffed his shot. This is why this happened. And they can be supportive at the end of the day.
Yeah.
A very funny one was we had a player called Massacre in our Counter-Strike roster. His mom, before tournaments, was coming to us with a breakdown of anti-striking the opposing team. And I'm like,
Wow.
that's the mother.
That's
Give her a badge.
the mother.
That's the mother.
That is so
That's
amazing
support.
to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really, really cool. Very, very cool. I
Yeah.
like to hear that.
It blew my mind too. It blew my mind.
Okay, I'm gonna skip that one. What's the worst experience? Give us the T tool for our skateboards. Okay. So anecdote time, potentially. What has been a defining moment in Goliath Gaming for you as a witness or a contributor to that moment? What is something that's kind of been like, wow, crazy, good or bad?
We've said so many. I'm just trying to think of one that relates to me more so. I mean, Judo spoke about his, and his story is going to transcend. I mean, he hasn't even told you about that goal he scored when he was at 80K. I think, I'm not too sure if it was for E-Club or whatever, but it's still, I sit back with sticks, like on a weekend, he'd be like, he'd rerun the stories of our greatest moments and often get goosebumps. But for me, it was traveling to DreamHack India with our Counter-Strike roster. I mean, everything was perfect. I mean, people, they'll say this and that about India, but I'm open-minded. I love the culture. I love the food. I love that. I love this. We went to the Lotus. I got to see so much I wouldn't have seen if it wasn't for esports. And while they were competing there at DreamHack, we had the craziest run. I've seen our players play at their peak. I can't fathom the level they transcended or ascended to throughout the game. When we were playing at some of the best players in the world, your Kinder, Nickelback, like these guys on Team Liquid and all that stuff, and we were smashing them. Like their reads, the individual play, the movements, and as a coach, I couldn't have been more proud to see that level that those individuals are able to reach. I mean, even to this day, I'll run that game back and I'll be like, how did he make that shot, and how did he make that read? And it's like, cool. Again, I'll try it back to he's in flow state. When you're in that state, there's not much that can go wrong. And just the build up towards that, and how they acted, and how professional they were, and how they interacted with the crowd and the people. And that was obviously the first time signing little pieces of paper and cardboard and merch for the the crowd and the fans. And I mean, that'll stick with me forever, because you don't get those opportunities as much as we think we do in South Africa. It's at a very low scale.
Right. Yeah. I mean, especially bringing back like sort of IRL events, it's really beautiful to see the sort of encouragement. And I'm sure like on a larger scale, it must have been just so amazing to be part of that.
It was surreal. No, it's crazy. Even now, going with Jabi to Capcom in the States, just to see how he was. Your behavior changes when you're around certain people. I'll tell you that much. When you're around the top elite, you have to try to be as composed as possible, but also that's your hero. Yeah. But I got to be composed because I'm playing against him. Yeah. But that's still your hero.
Yeah.
And he was playing an elimination game. In fact, he was already eliminated, but he was playing against one of the American players. He was called Punked, right? So his only chance to go through to playoffs was beating Jabi 2-0. And Punked's one of the best players in the world. And I said to Jabi, excuse my language, time to fuck up some predictions and seedings and throw this tournament astray. He nodded in appreciation. He went on stage and he won the first set, and everyone just went crazy. And that moment Punk knew he's not going through. And to see Jabi being as competitive as he was and taking a game off Punk, I mean, I'm pretty sure he got goosebumps at that moment, but he had an amazing tournament despite not making it through to playoffs, just taking sets off the best players in the world. But that will sit with them, and it will also sit with Punk. And that's the thing you want to be doing. You want to always, wherever I go, you want to leave an imprint on the people that are there, just, you know, making sure they think, sure, Goliath was this, Goliath was that, really down-to-earth people. They got to just speak and get to know more about South Africa in general, what we do, who we are, and if our esports scene is actually up to scratch. And I think we've done a really good job with Goliath. I mean, sure, since they started, I joined a year after, we've come heaps and bounds. And yeah, thanks to just all the players and, you know, the managers, you know, Steve, Sticks, Ash, Gabs, Cam. Yeah, we've done some good work, I'd say. So, you know, I was speaking to Snare in Cape Town for Hit the Streets, and he says, Tools, you ever just sit back and, you know, think, God damn, I've come all this way. Aren't you just proud of yourself?
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, after that conversation, I said, shit, I should probably, you know, just, you know, sit back some of the times and go through just a time lapse and timeline of, you know, how far we've come as individuals, as people.
I mean, look at Snare, like, look at him as well. Like, it's crazy to see it. So nice. Yeah. South
Africa. I mean,
yeah, man.
We don't. If we had to just sit down and just put tags of you know, all the individuals. Even I forgot his name. He's the League of Legends. His name is Trevor.
Don't test me.
Something shot. Quick shot. No, I think it's quick shot. I'm gonna go quick shot. I forgot his name.
Someone will comment.
He's the League of Legends. Yeah, like he was one of the first. I mean, Ben Heinstein as well. He was at TI doing the stats and stuff and all the reports for the Dota International, which is the biggest esports event we have as South African. So it's like, we are out there. We just need more of us.
Right. We do.
Yeah.
We do.
But soon.
Yeah. In terms of like, maybe this is like more of a general question as opposed to like team management question. But we've had a couple of those. Like Sam Wright Tickle says, like, she loves the stories, like the narrative in esports, you know. And I think she's like one of the people that are really good at telling stories and getting sort of like proverbially under the covers of what's going on and how this happened. How do we communicate those stories better? You know, it's like we're chatting now and I'm hearing about your sort of history individually and Julio's and Steven's, and it's just so, you know, it's so interesting to me. So how do we better communicate and share those stories with the public? Like, I don't know if that's the right word, but
it is.
Yeah.
To inform the uninformed, essentially.
Right.
More podcasts, more of these, more open conversations and record in a recorded sitting. I think that's pretty good. Not many people. I mean, I got so many stories about players in the past and events I've been to. It's like, you know, you forget about those stories. I mean, as you're going through your course of life and your career, and to have more podcasts and sit down chats just like that, and just to have some tea time. You know what I mean? Get the scoop, because there's so much out there that we just don't know. We're oblivious to.
Right.
More podcasts and just, you know, more open discussions. For me, news spreads fast by the word of mouth. So just chatting to random people in the street. I chat to everyone I can. When I travel, when I'm back at home, back here, I try to chat to everyone I can. And try to make them feel comfortable. So when they feel comfortable, they receive my stories better.
Right.
And also taking my bullshit, because I'm full of bullshit sometimes. I'll tell you that much. More podcasts, more conversations, more events. I think that's easily gonna be. It'll help, but it's just a drop in the water. I think.
Right. Yeah. Okay, Tools. I'm gonna ask you some association questions. You need to tell me what comes to mind. I'm thinking, like, should we make it one word or like a sentence? I think one word. Let's go with one word.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say something. You need to give me one word that sort of comes to mind when I say this. So we'll start with CS:GO. One
love.
Word.
CS:GO's love.
Love. Okay. What about FIFA?
Julio.
Yes. Okay, South African Esports.
Tough one. From rags to riches.
Yes.
There we go.
Love that. Team management.
Goliath.
Nice. Sponsorships.
What a point over here. I don't know. But sponsorships. I call sponsorships, what is this phrase I always use? It's high tides raise all ships. There we go. That's what I think of sponsorships. They're just
like
a high
that.
tide that raises all the esports ships and vessels.
Love that. I got goosebumps. I don't know if it's because I'm cold, but I think it's because of what you just said.
Bit of both.
Bit of both. Thulani, such a pleasure to be in your environment. So nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you are busy. Yeah, and I think we might have to do a part 2 at some point. There's so much.
Okay, I'm down. I'm game. But thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be here. That's a quote from Beast. Love it. So yeah, it's always a good time.
Awesome.
Always fun to be around. So yeah.